So I may still be the one person in the world who knows about this, and it's possible that I'm just absolutely insane. However, I recall one night during the mid-2000s, it had to have been probably like 2005-ish, when this movie series was like at its like peak popularity or around then. And when Adult Swim started, this was also a Sunday night, I think. But when Adult Swim started, there was this like weird commercial that didn't even really feel like one from Adult Swim. And it just kind of felt like one of those weird, like, generic, dumb, like, ooh, sexy sounding girl telling you about this cool thing coming. And they were saying that there was going to be a Pirates of the Caribbean sneak peek, like a sneak peek of the new movie coming out at some weird specific time, like 12:01 or 12:05 from what I remember. And like that was going to play for like 15 minutes. And like I just remember it was like probably like a black screen too with like green text or something on it. But anyway, Adult Swim ran like normal. This sounds like a creepypasta now. And I just recall once it hit like that time, a bit after midnight, it never happened. There was no preview. Stayed up for no reason. Lost sleep for no reason. Got absolutely nothing. Like, this is more obscure than the Captain Falcon bump, obviously, if it's down here at the bottom. But, like, I don't know if I'm just, like, off my damn mind, but if anybody else, like, remembers this, then please say so. Sunday Pants was a Cartoon Network show, and it aired around 2004-ish or something like that. And, like, it's definitely, I think, the most weird fucking shit that they've aired on the network. I wouldn't say the most obscure, like, some people remember this. I'm surprised more don't, though. But it was definitely the weirdest fucking crap they've aired on their channel. And the point of this entry is that it feels like it was more for Adult Swim. Like, by the name of it, you could guess it would come on Sunday, only Sunday nights. This lasted not long either. And it would be the last thing that they would air before Adult Swim started. And it was even, like, at a later time, too. Like, it would have had to have been, like, an 8 p.m. slot or something like that. And it just felt weird, because, like, I remember seeing previews, and I was like, they're putting this on Cartoon Network? Like, even on that age, I was questioning it, because, like, there was, like, swearing right in the trailers for it. And all the other stuff is just, like, really trippy or dark and insane, and, like, just dumb, experimental, edgy graphic stuff that you expect for, like, rejected Adult Swim pilots. Maybe that's exactly what they were in the end. But, like, with the time slot it got it, and just, like, how weird it was, like, you would think that this was, like, almost on Cartoon Network as a mistake, and, like, maybe it was something for Adult Swim that they approved. And I don't know, it's just a really weird thing to think about, and it's at the very bottom for that confusion. And just the fact that Sunday Pants itself is just a really odd, inappropriate show for Cartoon Network. Adult Swim is an SCP, so this could have been more of a joke entry, but I mean, it makes a little bit of sense when you think about it. It's just one of those very out there theories. By the way, if you don't know what SCP is, just go look them up right now, the SCP Foundation, and see if you can grasp a taste of what this is. But anyway, this would explain why the channel has, like, such phenomenal abilities as mentioned beforehand. Like that melancholic feeling, the fact that it suits you so much, its weirdness, the fact that it's lasted, like, aside from being such a weird late night block that was, like, seen for the longest time just this thing that, like, a small group of, like, cult weirdos watch. And, like, it just has, like, a lot of anomalous properties to it, as they would write out. But yeah, when you just think back of all those shared theories and stuff, that this could relate to this. I don't know how many of you will already kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about, or just be totally confused from reading this. So allow me to explain by giving a little history lesson with Nickelodeon first. So their 90s bumpers are very famous and just the vibe of the channel in general during then. It was super fun, super cool, super awesome. It was the channel by kids for kids. And if you're not really familiar with the style of the network that ends bumpers and such, then I suggest just go looking it up and watching some stuff yourself. Personally, 1998 is my favorite year to check those out, like especially during the summer. Anyway, then in 1999, Spongebob premiered. And as all of you should know, that ended up being a huge success. And it wasn't long until it got to the point where Nickelodeon was super milking off of it and mooching out all the money it could off of it. And unfortunately, that had some other side effects. And some of those include, like, making SpongeBob continue on even when it seemed like it should have ended. And, like, there was, like, a drop in quality after the third season, according to a lot of people, and especially after 5. And there's changes behind the scenes, like Hillingbird leaving and such like that. And of course, them completely oversaturating the channel with the reruns of it, and promoting the hell off of it compared to their other shows. And then that also eventually got to the point where it's like, if you're not SpongeBob, then you're out of here. Like, if you cannot instantly give us success, then you're done here. And that also ended up affecting, like, the style of the channel too, where it was super fun and goofy, but then that got toned down by the 2000s, and most of the bumpers were really nothing special to talk about or their themes. And I'm sure it's especially boring as it went on, as I don't really pay attention much by the 2010s, but I'm sure nobody thinks that they're as good. And it went from the channel, like, by kids for kids to business, and there isn't, like, a fair share of, like, promoting shows and stuff anymore. Like, sure, there's sort of going on with Rugrats beforehand, but nowhere near to this degree where it just completely changed everything. And now look at Rick and Morty on Adult Swim. Now, it's not as bad as this yet, thank goodness, but it could get worse, especially as of recently. But anyways, Rick and Morty started, people loved it, it was well loved, but it was still, like, a show that, like, only, like, Adult Swim and cartoon fans knew about. And then season 3 happens, and you see all of these things that I just talked about with SpongeBob's are happening. Like, fans overall, or at least depending on who you talk to, feel like there was a drop in quality of the show. Stuff changed behind the scenes. I already talked about this in a previous video discussing it ending after season 2. And some things I didn't point out there that are new to this is that, like, Adult Swim only really talks about that show now. Like, it's all you see promoted really by them. It's all what they really use in their bumpers anymore. I mean, usually at least 90% of the time, especially when it comes to making new bumpers, it's almost like 100%. And it's all what they can really make money off of. Like, no other show, like, really gets attention like Rick and Morty, at least of their animated ones. And it's, like, the most mainstream Adult Swim show, aside from Eric Andre, which I'll mention again in a bit. But yeah, like, it seems like that they want to make as much money off of the show as possible, and it's kind of like losing the integrity within that. And this becomes even more relevant as of recently, like after I made the Iceberg chart, even with A&T and T and their higher ups suddenly canceling stuff like Venture Brothers, and Adult Swim itself kind of seeming like it's like losing some of its health. And why would they do that? Well, here's a little viewpoint that I heard from the Pizza Party podcast that I found interesting and agreed with, which is probably true, is that when you look at people talking about their shows online, you don't really hear Venture Brothers. Like, you don't really hear any of their shows talked about online, at least like in a near surface mainstream level, except for Rick and Morty. And then Eric Andre being the exception to that, but it's like an exception. Like, it's popular, but it hasn't like really oversaturated stuff yet or took over anything or changed stuff. And another thing that Rick and Morty might or may not have to do with this too and like probably just also the budgeting issues that they've been experiencing recently or changes, is that a lot of people probably also feel that that mid 2000s vibes that I've been like talking about a lot here is just gone, or at least not as strong. Like there's still some coolness in the network. Like I like some of their spot the logo bumpers and stuff, but I don't know, there's just not much else. There's no like really soothing feelings or as powerful as you might hear from asking some people. But yeah, if my rambling makes any sense, that's kind of what I mean by this point. And of course, it's unfortunate because it wasn't the intent of either of those shows to do that to their networks. And they both started out pretty good, but then kind of got ruined, especially from them wanting to push it more and more and more, even after people think that the quality dropped, like with Spongebob and then Rick and Morty, how a lot of people stopped liking it by season 3, but they already ordered like 7 more seasons or whatever it was. Every viewing of Adult Swim is personalized. Now, this may sound like just a reference to the Super Mario 64 Iceberg, right? Well, there's more to it than that, because once you stop and think about it, it explains everything that was previously talked about. All of those melancholic feelings is personally caterized to you. It gave you specific feelings that would soothe you, put you in a state of melancholy, and even fear. It specifically caters to what specifically and subtly disturbs you. And what about all those other entries I talked about, like the Pirates of the Caribbean sneak peek just now? How come I'm like the only person who seems to really know about that? Maybe there's only a few others. It's because it was personalized for me when I was viewing it on my TV. Same with the Falcon Punch bumper, only a number of people seem to remember that. And what about that rumor that the sun was winking in Dawn's Your Enemy before the Dawn's Your Frenemy made it more mainstream? There were some people who were claiming that the sun already winked, while others were saying that it never did. And what about those fan creations that some people think they're real? Maybe they think that because they actually saw it on their TV. And why would they see it on their TV and you haven't? Because every viewing of Adult Swim is personalized. And that does it for the Adult Swim Iceberg. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm glad that a lot of people showed up to watch this series. And I'm going to have some questions to ask in the comments section that I don't want to overfill this video with, so make sure to check this out. And I'll see you all next time for whatever is next. Bye-bye.